All right, we want to touch on a couple of news items while we have John here with us. And the big one that came out overnight, courtesy of the Australian AP and then Simon Cambers earlier today, is that Craig Tiley is talking about a very different looking Australian Open next year, 8 months away, possibly some kind of quarantine protocols for the players and only Australian fans. Mary, you've been chewing this one over all morning, and I think we're all kind of trying to get our arms around how this might look. Have you gotten any? You figured anything out yet?
Again, I like that Wimbledon announced them so early. When Indian Wells did it, it surprised everybody, and within a couple of days, all the other dominoes fell in the sports world. I like that Craig Tiley is being so respectful of how serious this pandemic is, which I don't think some people are. And so, again, fanless tennis or fans just from Australia, that will change everything. And we have to be ready to make those changes along with the game. I salute Craig Tiley for declaring himself this way.
Guys, I got a text this morning from someone in Australia who was worried that people were running with this story that there wouldn't be an Australian Open in 2021. I was told that was one of 4 scenarios. That's obviously the worst scenario and also probably the least likely. And like Mary, what I was told was that, again, Australian Tennis Australia considering 4 options, and one of them is that the players come early. Some of them will likely have to quarantine, and the fans may only be permitted if they are from the state of Victoria. So, I mean, again, I think the moral here is that all of these events really want to see tennis come back. They are willing to be creative. I don't think any of these events are going to look like what we're accustomed to from a tennis tournament. Wimbledon had the luxury of an insurance policy, so they quickly said we're not happening in 2020. Obviously, the other 2 majors are trying to be creative, but we're all going to have to be nimble because these are not going to be conventional sporting events until we have a vaccine.
And John, what I think is going to happen more than anything in recent times anyway, going forward, is that everything's going to be regional. I mean, we've already seen it in Belarus earlier today. Some women played, and at the end of the match, there was no handshake. There were no fans in the stands. But they are trying to do this. They're trying to do it in Germany. The U.S. is trying to do it in Florida this weekend. This is the kind of stuff that we're going to see. Instead of shaking hands, look what these 2 did. Yeah, the racket tap. So, yeah, we're going to have to get more creative. Nice. I can see going forward, John and Brett, that if we're going to show tennis on Tennis Channel without fans, then we've got to make it more interactive. We've got to make it like FaceTime Live. We've got to develop algorithms that allow for applause, on a big shot. We can even put speakers on the court so the players can hear. I'm being serious. I've already talked to people, my friend Leo Levin from IDS, about this. We're already cooking up ways to make it, to give more atmosphere to it. Because if you don't do that, man, you're going to see some deadly dull stuff.
I want to know, who are we pumping our fist to when we hit a winner if there are no fans in the stands? But I'll tell you, Mary, I'll tell you something interesting. We've talked about these regional tours. We've also talked about how global tennis has become. And they were talking about Australia. Maybe we'll just have national championships. And then they said, well, wait a second. Alex de Minaur's in Spain, and Paparin is at the Mouratoglou Academy, and Kyrgios might be in Florida. That even when players are from a certain region, that doesn't mean they're training there. So it's going to be very interesting. I think you're right, though. I think we sort of have been joking about, the players are going to have to call their own lines and use their own towels. But I think the atmosphere, part of what being an athlete is all about, is interacting with the crowd, knowing you're on television. We see players all the time. How often do we hear a player say, well, the crowd really fired me up? I think we make light of it, but it's going to be a real adjustment for these athletes to play in empty stadiums.
Yeah. Well, that's why, how Djokovic does this thing when he wants more people to cheer for him? If we can pump in viewer noise he can react to that, I think that we can have flags waving. There are so many things. No, you can have people coding for every different sport. I'm hoping that people are starting to think that way, because I know you're laughing, but I'm serious.
No, I think you're right.
That's the stuff I'm thinking of.
Well, we're all accustomed to the roar of tens of people, and that may be the reality of tennis.